Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like what do you call it? It's like flying a jet, soaring through the sky, gazing at the sunset, seeing all the clouds around you. It's like you're floating in a sense. Like
Yeah.
that's what creating feels like. It's this sense of like, you know, weightless. Like it feels like you're kind of soaring through the sky and just, absorbing all the beauty around you. There's like a very natural feel to creating. So
Yeah. I lay on the scare, you gotta glow. You gotta glow. She had my attention, she gotta
I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Let's Get podcast. I'm your host Zeke, and in this episode I have Christian Mack to speak about being an artist. You can find his work by clicking the link in the description below. I think of a content warning for any strong language used in this episode, and hope you have a nice day and enjoy the show. So, welcome to the podcast.
hello, how's it going? My name is Christian Mack. I'm a freelance independent artist. I've been drawing since I was a kid, and now I am a professional artist for about 5 years by now. Yeah, so 5 years I've been drawing. So, yeah.
Nice. And since that's your origin story, how would you like to represent that origin story?
For me, it's more like, art's kind of like a passion for me. How like it's always been like this inner drive that I have for draw. Like, I always have like stuff going inside my head. I'm always like in a very imaginative person that's always like, fantasizing things, like daydreaming all the time, constantly have ideas like circling around my head, so as soon as I get an idea pumping out my head, I just want to like, put it on a paper and just see what it looks like in person.
Nice. So let's start at the beginning. What kind of got you into drawing and everything like that?
I think generally for me at least, it was for cartoons and like animation. Because when I was a kid, I was really into like cartoons and stuff. They were kind of like my biggest escapism. I didn't discover anime about like when I was like preteen, I would say, like around like somewhere in the age like 10 or 12 years old. I discovered it like for kids, and what really got me into drawing was like seeing those things, how they were animation and everything, and I just want to like copy the drawings and just sort of replicate it on paper. So that's kind of what got me into drawing. It's like seeing art in general in the forms like comic books and like anime and manga and cartoons. Just seeing that in that form is what really got me into drawing.
Nice. And with that, how would you say your style evolved over the years?
I think overall, I always struggle with type of styles I would have because I was very good at mimicking. I was very good at like copying styles like back and forth, until I got to the Kubert school. That was the school I graduated. After I graduated high school, I went straight to Kubert school, studying so many art teachers, so many professionals that were like teaching me a lot of the basic stuff. And how I really found my style was like literally after I graduated. One thing that I kind of just learned is like, to never like stop drawing, like always keep practicing and always keep, drawing and drawing and drawing. And that was kind of my method. So how I came to find my style was kind of like, sort of things that I like to draw, which is like kaiju monsters and like anime. And from there, I guess you could kind of say like, it came to the point where I just realized like, oh, this is just what I draw like now. So, I just basically like settle with that and just kind of like whip out the things you want, So, yeah.
Right. And you say you went to school for art. So how was that like studying art?
It was pretty cool. It was nice to go because when I was graduated from high school, I didn't know there wasn't a lot of schools that was like that didn't really have that I want, particularly like I got into FIT. There was Pratt School, I believe, and there was like some other schools, SCAD, and there was SVA. They had like things that involve like comic books and stuff like that, but they only have it for like 1 year program and everything. And for me, it wasn't like not enough to get in. So, when I came upon like Cuber School, I was kind of like digging through my wardrobe and stuff until I came upon this pamphlet. And I was like, oh, what school is this? And it turned out it was the Cuber School. We went on a tour to see what the school looks like. It's actually more like a traditional school. And, when my folks asked, the counselor and everything, like, what's the schedules going to be like, what the classes going to be like, turns out that the school had no academia. It's just purely art. So that was like basically gold mine for me. So when I went to that school, I learned so much though. Like they had like a whole library of comic books, things to reference on. There's an art store downstairs, like in the corner that you could buy like tools, pencils, circular things like rulers and stuff, in Bristol's. And there's also like tons of classes like, basic drawings, anatomy, sketches and layout, digital art, digital drawing, Photoshop and stuff. There was also like, narrative, like comic book layouts and things. There's also, I think method and material, when you kind of learn how to paint, learn how to airbrush, you also learn how to like, paint on the Bristol. And there's just like the cartooning aspect, like make short stories and everything. There's so many like varieties in terms of like comic book drawing. So yeah, that was kind of my experience. It was a really fun experience too, and I remember that for like every end of the school year, we would go on a trip, like, to exotic places normally. And around the time, they would also give us a trip to New York Comic Con and actually speak with the professional, get portfolio reviews and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it was a great experience, learning what I learned, building the connection with a lot of artists, like, just building that network. So it was nice to be in a place where, you didn't have to really worry about like academics and all that type of stuff, like scheduled programs, things like that. Like I could just focus on art, and that's a good thing for me because like I really don't want to be good at what I'm doing and I want to be the best at it. So yeah, that was like honestly the best experience of me. Going to school was definitely a good choice. So yeah.
Nice. So pretty much it wasn't like classes and everything. It was some like you had to like, how does that work? Not having classes.
Oh, the classes were like, you have 2 classes a day. We got 10 homeworks like a week. So like, yeah, we get like overloads of homework and everything. But at my first year, I was kind of hard time struggling because I was commuting from New York to New Jersey. I was like waking up 4 a.m. in the morning just so I can like get the classes on time and then to travel back, which I barely had any time to like, get my work done. But by the time I got around second year, I got the dorming. One things I kind of learned is that I'm a very fast drawer. So like I could get things done like that. So that was kind of helpful. But yeah, the classes were like 2 days, 2 classes a day, and you get like 10 homeworks a week. There were probably about like classes are about like 2 hours in, they go over like the assignment, and then like the rest of the hours you're just like coming up with the layout, you're just drawing and everything. And the classes will also like schedule deadlines as well. So like oh, this is where you need to get your homework done. So like there was a lot of like deadlines, at least things that we have to make up. And we it was important, like you have to keep track of your homework because, the thing is that you don't want to get left behind. You don't want to get like, you want to get caught up as much as possible as you can. So yeah. So that's how that whole process works.
Got it. And to convince like your parents that you want to do art, was that hard, or did they kind of go with it from the beginning?
It wasn't so much hard for me because, I've been told my folks that I always wanted to be an artist. My folks kind of, noticed that like I was very good at drawing, and they were very supportive of that, so I was pretty much fortunate to have like, a group of people that was very support me and my passion and my dream, and able to like, provide me the source and the accessibility to like, do what I'm supposed to do and do the things that I want to do. So it was nice, like thank God I didn't end up in that unfortunate situation because I met so many artists who didn't really have a supportive family. So I guess I happened to be the lucky one that just what do you call it? That just had ones that support me. So yeah.
Nice. So like so that's good to have like that support system and have people who like, okay, you have to like fight for it.
Yeah. It's so good, especially like when you have people like that kind of like understand exactly like the passion and the drive. And I was lucky enough to have like the people who kind of saw that and, just sort of embrace that. And unfortunately, like, yeah, having that type of relationship is like really hard, especially when you're dealing with families and, especially with your loved ones and stuff like that. Like a lot of people these days, they don't see the value ship and the work method that goes into like art, if we're particularly talking about like graphic art. So yeah, unfortunately, like that thing is very common, but I'm just lucky enough to have the people around me that see my passion for that and just see like, embrace that world. So.
And when you create, do you envision it first in your head or do you kind of just draw?
I just kind of just draw the things that I just saw. I wasn't really much the original guy. I started doing like original stuff later on when I started to be more comfortable in the things that I was drawing, particularly my drawing stuff, because I was kind of insecure about like, the lines I was making. I was very uncertain about like what type of things do I want to draw or what do I want to be known for drawing. And then, when it came to original stuff, I was like, oh, let me just, this would be a cool concept or this would be a cool idea. I would just, imagine the things that are like kind of in my head and just sort of like, oh, okay, this would be a cool idea. And then I just go off on that. So I didn't start being an original until like after, no, not after, like I would say after I graduated high school. So
Got it. And what was that switch when you became like a professional artist?
The switch, it wasn't like so much a switch. It was kind of like my dream come true. It was always kind of like my dream to be a professional comic book artist. It was always my dream to like be an established artist and like, draw for companies and get things done and get things published like on the book or a magazine or in a manga. It's just like, like any other artist, I just didn't know how. I didn't know, where to start. And fortunately for me, I found the Cuba School, and that was where I started to be, started at the school. So yeah, like it wasn't really so much a switch. It was kind of like, a very, it was kind of like my one objective goal for me, I did kind of fell off on art like a bit, like in high school and stuff like that. I didn't really took it seriously. And then, once I got back into drawing, I started like sketching like here and there. That's when I started like feeling it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. So.
Nice. It's great. I remember one time I was doing graphics, my friend was like, you become a professional when people start paying you for your work. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't see, once again, I think I mentioned this, but like, yeah, people just don't see the value in art, and that's just what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Like, not everyone's got money like that. Not everyone's got paid the bill, but it's just kind of weird, especially in my experience. It's kind of weird, like the people that you come across that tries to like, don't really understand the process, or they don't really see the value. Like I deal with these kind of people like all the time when it comes to commission work. And that's just an unfortunate reality. I guess that's kind of one of the main reasons why so many people kind of quit art early, because like they understood like the gravity of like being a professional artist. And, sometimes depending on the situation, they're not going to take that risk to be a full-time freelance artist. So, yeah.
Got it. Yeah, a lot of times I always see like people always trying to just that saying that you're not paying me for like the work, you're paying me for the years it took to get good at that work.
Yeah. That's kind of like the basic gist of it. You know what I mean? There was like this whole, there was a meme I remember, and somebody, it said that like, why should I pay you something that only took you 10 seconds to get done? And the response to that in the post was like, because it took me 10 years to get to this point to get it done in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the reality. Once again, like people just don't see the validity in art. They just don't see the value ship in it. So like oftentimes you're going to be dealing with people saying like, like, oh, why should I pay you this much? Oh, you're charging me, or, oh, can I pay you in this and stuff like that. And to me personally, I gotten so used to it. Like, I don't really expect people to like, pay me up front, because anytime a person asks me for like a commission and everything, I just go like, hey, just to let you know, like I'm charging you and stuff like that. And then be like, oh, of course. But it's like, you don't understand, like in my position, I have to deal with this like all the time. Like this is very common for me. So yeah, that's been my experience, unfortunately. But that's that's an experience for everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I think in other fields also, people always have like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's all about that price point, that value people fit into things.
Yeah. It's just like it's like they see art as more of a hobby thing, like more like a hobby job, hobbyist. I'm not sure if that's the right term. Than like an established job, than an essential work. And that's kind of unfortunate, and which is weird because there's so much things that go into art all the time, like what I mean, like especially when you take in consideration like how things get done in the world, how like there's architect, there's so much like art that goes into that, what do you call it, logo designs and product placement. I think that's what's called, marketing, like when you see like juice or on a toothpaste or on like on any products that you buy from a store, like what I mean, like there's so much art that go into these type of stuff. I would say like it's a very common thing that people look under. What I mean, it's just something that people just don't acknowledge. So yeah, it's weird how we live in a society where people don't value art, but I guess that's just what it is. So it is what it is. You just gotta like learn to like adapt to it, I guess.
Yeah, you're also free to ask me questions if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know.
And then going to back to your art, so what's like the most enjoyable part about it?
The enjoyable part about it, I would say just the process of like, thinking something of cool and then drawing cool and just be like, yeah, like I did that. Like, and like the idea of like having a cool idea in your head and just like putting it down on the paper. Like, I guess, the creating aspect of it will always be the best enjoyable part for me when it comes to being an artist, especially, when you take in consideration like the thought process is like, oh, this character can look like this, or this character can look like that, or oh, I can have an environment like that. Like the creative process is always the enjoyable part about it, because especially when you start like pulling things from like reality or any show or any animation, and you just be like, oh, like that would look cool, but let me do it in this way. Like, it's always, there's so much freedom that you can do when it comes to like creating stuff, and I'm particularly talking about like concept art, let's say conceptual art, things like that. Like when you're building the process, when you're like creating stuff, that's where the fun part is, at least to me. So yeah.
Got it. I mean, yeah, I can agree. Like having that idea and then like I actually did it.
Yeah.
Real. Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I can see now.
Yeah.
All right. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, especially when you take in consideration like how, you finish a thing, you finish a piece and it's properly executed. And it's just like, yeah, I'm kind of proud how this came out. You know what I mean? I think there's like a difference. My teacher taught me this, but there's a difference between a finished piece and a result. And and that was kind of like my experience. A lot of art that I created, sometimes they'll end up in result, but when you get to a piece, when you finally finish a piece and it looks like a finished piece, like that's like one of the best moments, just like saying I'm done with this. So that's a very enjoyable experience for me as an artist.
And what do you mean by what is like a finished piece to you?
I would say I think it kind of depends on yourself. When you feel like when you feel like a piece is complete, but like the difference between like resort is like how your art comes out. Like you have like intentions, like you have ideas and stuff like that, but then you execute it and it's not as like it doesn't really settle with you. Like you're kind of uncertain about it. You're like, I don't know about this, or you look back and say, I could probably do a little bit better on this, or I could probably fix this up. And then a finished piece is more like, this is okay. Like, I'm okay with this. I'm happy with this. I like how this came out. This is like, a finished piece, and that's something that I come across like all the time. I'm always like, looking back on my old pieces, wondering like, do I want to touch it up or do I want to redo it? Things like that. So, yeah.
Got it. And do you feel like you made more finished pieces or more results?
More finished pieces. Thank God. I'm very critical of myself when it comes to making art. So I usually compare myself to other people, and what I would do is that I would just look at this stuff. I was like, man, I want to do what he did, and so yeah, I think the fact that I'm so critical of myself and I'm always asking myself like, what can I do better, kind of helped me be a better artist and sort of like look at like art in a certain way, especially when it comes to like making mistakes in art. Like it's easy for me to point it out and just be like, I could probably do better with this, or I'm not really satisfied with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, if I feel like I made a lot of results,
yeah,
because sometimes you just gotta get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fine. Like it's especially like if you're an artist, like a professional, like it's best if you get that out, like get it out of the way, just so you could just move on to the next piece. You know what I mean? Because I'm the type of person who believes that like, if you got an idea and if you're drawing something, if it's not coming out if you want, just like either stop or like, get it done and get it out of the way. So yeah.
Nice. One of the best piece of advice I got was from my elementary art teacher was, if you make a mistake, just add it into your art.
Yeah. Especially nowadays with technology, and it's so easy to like fix up your mistake. Because sometimes I'll be looking at my art, it's like, let me just touch it up a bit, So came a farmer, because like when you do like oil painting and thing, you're kind of screwed. Like you have to live with that piece for the rest of your life. So yeah.
Like, yeah, this is it.
So, yeah. Like this ain't no going back. Yeah. I think that was the reason why I was so critical of myself, because like, I used to ink traditionally, and I was just like, man, like I cannot mess this up. Like, so I guess that was kind of part of it. But yeah, like thank God for technology, because now it's like, back in the old day, you kind of just stuck with it and you just have to live with that. So
yeah. Creating is fun. How does like when I create, I sometimes get like, it feels like something that comes out of me feels like so natural, just like my brain is just going on autopilot.
Yeah. It's kind of like what do you call it? It's like flying a jet, soaring through the sky, gazing at the sunset, seeing all the clouds around you. It's like you're floating in a sense. Like that's what creating feels like. It's this sense of like, weightless, like it feels like you're kind of soaring through the sky and just, absorbing all the beauty around you. There's like a very natural feel to creating. So I think that's like the reason why I enjoy so much of drawing, because, I just love to create. So
Creating is fun.
yeah, it is.
It's nice. So professional. So was Brooklyn Comic Con your first con?
The Brooklyn Comic Con isn't my first con. My very first con was the New Jersey Expo. That was my very first con of like having the table and everything. So yeah, it was kind of weird. I didn't really make that much of money, and I wasn't really ready for the con. But until like a couple cons later, not East Comic Con, I think it was Brooklyn Comic Con. I was like the first time I was ever prepared. So like, yeah, I done like a couple of cons here and there, done a couple exhibit as well. I done Brooklyn Comic Con. I done East Coast Comic Con. I also done the New Jersey Expo twice, by the way. And I believe I did the POW Comic Con. That was pretty interesting. And I also did what was the other one that I did? There was the other one. I forgot what it's called, but like, yeah, you paid yeah, I forgot what it was called, but it was like taking place in Williamsburg and everything. There was like this whole concert and stuff like that. So yeah, I done like conventions and festivals before. So
So how's it being on the booths, like on the table side?
It's pretty fun, it gets really tiring for sure. But like, yeah, it's really fun, especially you get to talk to people and you get to see people just like see your art. It's kind of weird, seeing that transition, because like you're always on the outside looking in and you're kind of just like, man, like how cool would it be to have a table? But now having that experience, it's a very interesting experience, sitting behind the booth, just waiting and stuff like that though. You get a lot exhausted very quickly. So there's that.
So what did you learn from the first con that made you better for the other ones?
Well, learning for the first con is that like always have your prints ready to go and quality. Personally to me, when it comes down to selling my art, I always let the art do the talking. I'm not really a salesman. Like I'm not a personality guy. I mean, I can like socialize with people, but I'm not really what do you call it? I'm not really outgoing. So like I let the art do the talking for me. So I try to like, make the best type of art and make sure my art is top-notch quality. So that way, like, people could just gaze on it and they could just start a conversation from there, So yeah, I think ultimately, when the first con just taught me is kind of just learning how to sell myself, but also learning how to sell my art. So I guess that's what I learned from that day.
Kind of like push you into like, all right, you're gonna have to learn these personal skills.
Yeah.
Personable skills.
Yeah. It was more like about how to like, sort of engage with people. Like, that's what I kind of learned about that. I also learned about like, talk about certain things, ask them questions like, how's it going? How's it doing? All that type of stuff. That's really, it's all about like, like building a relationship with the people who are buying your art. So I think that's really what's all about.
Cool. I'm gonna be taking these notes when I get my own booth one day. Be the best.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one thing I see a lot with a lot of artists, dude, like they don't really know how to sell themselves, and something I kind of noticed that, which I figured like in business form, because I want people to buy my pieces. So it was kind of like, okay, how can I come up with ways that I can sell myself? You know what I mean? Like, what are the ways, what are things that most artists don't really do that I could apply it to my conventions. Like, for example, like, make special deals, like give them deals, because like, the thing is you have to put yourself in mind as a customer. And the thing is like, okay, like I'm not going to pay $50 to $80 on an art print. So, you kind of just have to ask yourself saying like, okay, what can I make these people do or make them feel like they're getting in on like the exclusive product? Like, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those things that I kind of had to like think like a businessman. And I don't like to think like a businessman. I like to think myself as an artist, but that's kind of the nature of like art business. Like you kind of need to learn how to sell yourself. So, it kind of, I have to put myself in that mode and sort of like think like, okay, like what can I do, like learn from other business, like marketing and stuff like that. What can I do that I can apply to my own thing so that way I'm selling art? So
it's like learning the other side of the game of the business of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the business of it. Yeah. Because like, because I don't really see too many artists like learning the business aspect of like art. And, it's definitely very dangerous because a lot of artists get screwed over if they don't understand the type of person that they're dealing with. Like, you know what I mean? So that's just like what it is. So for me, at least, that's something that I kind of have to learn. Like, it's like I had to learn how to be a businessman, because some people will have no problem screwing you over or will have no problem muscling you out. Or some people would just like, put you in like the worst position where you're making the worst decision, like to avoid those type of situations. I have to like, start thinking like a businessman and start treating it more like a business. So.
Yeah. Before it was like the marketing part, a lot of times you can have the best product, but if the customer doesn't see the same thing you see,
right,
or they don't know what they're seeing, they're not going to buy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you have to give the customer a reason to buy, or at least give them enough, freedom to make the choice that if they want to buy this stuff or not, So like, personally me, I don't try to like force customers, to buy myself or anything. I kind of just like, you know what, if you want to buy it, they're here for you guys, I try to make my product as cool as possible as you can. So that way, like, people can just like buy it and stuff. So, oh wow, you have my print. I'm resting. Yeah. Trying to make sure, my art is good enough. So that way, like, people could just gaze upon it and just like saying like, oh, like that looks really cool. You know what I mean? So yeah, I try to, make cool stuff, and that way people can buy my cool stuff. So yeah.
Because like with Yeezys, like Kanye, you're not buying the sneakers, you're really buying like Kanye's image. And
yeah, you're buying the brand of it. It's the fact that the sneakers are made by Kanye that makes you buy a sneaker. Because really, like, they're just regular sneakers, But like it's the Kanye brand, and also like it's like maybe it has something to do like how the way it looks, but you're kind of just buying the Kanye brand, That's really it's all about, So that's the one thing I kind of learned with art, in terms of business aspect. It's kind of like, people doesn't like to buy the product alone. They like the things that come with the product. You know what I mean? Even if it's like deals or special deals or anything like that, people like to feel like they're getting in on something. So that's what I learned.
Yeah. Like I buy Jordans mainly for like the style, but it's also that
Right.
it's like that. It's that which one I'm losing the word.
The
Perception.
Yeah, perception. Yeah, it's that whole like, getting like that really deal breaker. It's like Black Friday in a sense. Like you're getting good on a good deal. Like, you're getting on the exclusive product. So that's how I really boil it down, in my opinion, at least.
And then you go to the artists.
Yeah.
Like a lot of famous ones, the ones we hear about their history, we kind of hear about them because of the stories about them. That's what kind of like brings people and make their value go up.
Yeah. It's like, Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah. Well, I don't really have any comment on that, but yeah, I guess that's more like, people also want to get to know you as a person, I guess. It's like a whole combination of a lot of things why a customer may feel like they want to buy something. But the thing is, like, most importantly, you want to make the customers feel special in some way. So
Yeah, definitely. And then with all that learning, did that kind of like, you said earlier how you kind of like want to make your art speak for itself, so that I'm guessing it had like an influence on your art in some way, the way you right?
Yeah, I would say it had somewhat of an influence on me in some way. How art history and how people like came to be like an established artist, like how, what they went through and what they grew up in. It's like, wow, like if, this person can do this and I can do this too, you know what I mean? So like, it's just a matter of that, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's what kind of like, so I would say, yes, it does influence me in some way.
Yeah. And to go to like how like some artists don't like do like the business, it's like for you, is art like very personal or like cumulative?
Yeah. Art to me is like kind of personal to some degree, but the way I see it, it's more like a work thing, but it's still a personal need to some degree because I'm still drawing the things that I want to draw. So in that perspective, like it is personal to me, especially when it comes down to like my OC and my own original project. Like those things are very personal to me. So yeah.
And then since like that personal, you kind of like to yourself, and then to like business is more cumulative. Like you have to
Right.
you have to think about others and like around others.
Yeah. I think one of the things I learned, especially as an artist, is that you're not just drawing for yourself, you're drawing for other people. And you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what do you want to be known for when it comes to your art? You know what I mean? And some people, they don't really care about it, but it's just like, it's something that, especially nowadays with social media and the internet, it's something you have to like really think about. Like you kind of have to ask yourself, how do people want to recognize you as an artist? It's something that I ask myself all the time. I think any artist should ask himself that.
And with social media,
Um,
go ahead.
my social media.
Like,
I would say my social media. I was just speaking in general, but my social media handle, which is like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, I would say DeviantArt as well. Like, like just in general, any type of social media handle, like, how people perceive you, because, like I think for a lot of artists, like a lot of artists are so used being like the back end, sort of like the middleman, like kind of like not have to get involved in the public, not be in the public eye, sort of kind of like the underground dudes and all that type of stuff. Like, people who get sidelines never get the full on credit and stuff. But now living in this stage age, artists are not like the middleman anymore. They're in the public art. They're a public figure now. So in a way, like you kind of have to sort of like treat yourself as like a social media influencer.
Yeah. And do you kind of design with social media in mind?
Yes and no. I kind of do. Sometimes I take on trends, like I'll draw something that's like trendy in art and stuff like that. But most of the times I just draw stuff like that. They're fine, cool, whether it's coming out new or whether it's old, and I just put it out there, and just let people know, hey, I draw this thing. Like, do you like it? It's kind of like that. So
Got it. It's cool. Y'all learn. Yeah, see, and all that goes into art, and then that's kind of like adds to the value of why you have to charge the way you charge.
Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah. I think, with all that in mind, I think like, it's hard like to manage being a public figure, but also like being an artist and also being a businessman, like that's hard, especially when you go to school and they don't really teach you all three of these things. And, learning these three things are very very vital, especially when it comes to your art career. So yeah, I would say like me, I have to learn being a businessman and have to learn being a social media influencer like on my own. And I got to see what that tastes like. But now since I have the experience, I kind of have somewhat an idea to how to go about it. So yeah.
Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Yeah, no, like he's right. And yeah, it's just, yeah, you kind of have to manage that in a sense though. I kind of wish like, in art school, they taught you more of the business side of it and social media influencer. Cause like we're kind of in this new world now and, like the industry is sort of changing and how art is being commodified and how art is being judged based on its value and based on its merit. It's kind of a bit different than back in the old days. So, these are all things you kind of have to keep in mind in a sense.
As for that, I went to a business school, so I got the opposite experience.
No, I had a friend that went to business school, that went to my school. Fortunately, he dropped out. But yeah, like, try to learn as much as you can, anything that to benefit your career. There's nothing wrong with, learning, things like that are outside like our career. There's nothing wrong like learning all this type of stuff. Like for one, I have to take like writing class because, I suck at like writing, grammar, because I have trouble with grammar and typos and stuff. So it's like, I have to like literally took like writing class, dialogue class, just so I can like write my own story and not like mess up and stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. The other part, right? The other part.
Yeah.
Creative storytelling.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I think of? People have laptops.
Yeah. People with laptops, I guess. Yeah, people with laptops.
I said flat tops, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's okay. What else? What about? So, what's your art? Where do you see yourself evolving to next?
I guess doing more of original stuff. I would say more original stuff. I guess my kind of goal is like kind of like work in established art field. Get like a concept art going and stuff like that. Sort of in a position, but yeah, I guess what I'm evolving into is drawing my own original stuff, and I'm kind of getting more comfortable with drawing my original stuff. I wasn't really confident in it, but now like since I'm kind of at the level that I am right now, I can like able to draw things that I can like create, things that I own. Like, you know what I mean? So I guess that's the fun part for me.
Nice. Well, before I go to my last question, you have any questions for me?
No, I don't have nothing that comes to mind.
That's cool. So the last question is, what would you name your origin story?
I would just say my origin story would be, the struggle, I guess. That would be my own origin story. It's just like coming into a place where you are confident and you're comfortable in the art that you're making. The struggle of, I would just call it the struggle, because not only you're struggling with art, but also you're struggling with people that values your art. You're struggling with people that likes your art. You're struggling with your art being profitable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, being an artist is a struggle. So that's how I would call it. I would call it the struggle.
Nice. Well, thank you again for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Anytime. That brings another episode of the Let's Get Podcast to a close. Again, you can find Christian Mack's work by clicking the link in the description below. For next week, I have Richard Butler of Raceworks to speak about podcasting, comics, and more. Hope You continue a nice day, and I hope to see you there.